New York.
Or nowhere.
Or nowhere. New York or bust.
Yeah, so we'll open with the plot, kind of walk through that, and then...
Oh, we've been recording already.
Oh. All right. Welcome to Theology and...
Welcome to the Theology and Show. A show that talks culture, film, art, food, all of the things in between, and how those intersect with faith and our lives as being disciples of Jesus. My name is McKay. I am on staff here at Sandals Church. I am joined by...
Fredo. Good to see y'all. What's up?
Fredo's not on staff here. And I'm...
To my knowledge, I am still.
And we have...
Celeste.
Welcome.
Also on staff here.
Yes, we are all on staff, thankfully. Lord willing. Keeps staying on staff.
Till they hear what we said on this episode.
Yeah, today's episode is going to be a fun one. If you didn't catch all the conversations about New York, we are talking The Materialist, the 2025 movie that was the very poor attempt at bringing back the RomCom to the big screens.
It was heralded as a rom-com. It probably was more of a romantic, like, drama.
It's just a rom.
Yeah.
Just a rom.
A
Just
romantic
straight rom,
dramedy.
yeah.
Straight rom.
It does win at, like, showing that sincere, genuine romance is possible still. I will give it that. I will give it that. It's a step in the right direction. So, but yeah, we can dive into that in a moment. But yeah, I wouldn't call it a traditional rom-com like
Right.
I feel like the calm in the rom-com comes solely from Pedro Pascal being in it.
Yeah,
Because he can be funny.
he can be, but his character is very sincere.
Yeah.
In this.
The calm came from Chris Evans' character being broke in New York.
Captain America
Yeah.
broke.
He was just broke.
Life is rough after the Avengers.
Yeah,
That money runs
apparently.
out real quick.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But yes, the film with Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal was received with like pretty mixed reviews from what I saw. Again, another movie I have not yet seen. One, it does not look super interesting to me. I love my early 2000s rom-coms. Like, those are great.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm not the hugest fan of Chris Evans. Dakota Johnson, I mean, has the charisma of a piece of cardboard.
Oh my goodness.
And Pedro Pascal, I'm like, I just feel like he's in too much right now. So this movie from the jump, I was like, not super interested in. I'll maybe go watch
Fair.
it if I'm on a flight.
Fair.
Maybe.
Yeah, it does give airplane movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good take. I would have been totally okay had I just watched this on a flight. Like,
I would have been like, cinema.
if it helped,
Yeah. I got 2 hours to kill.
if it helped me just burn
Great.
some time.
Yeah, how long is it a 2-hour movie?
It's just
Like about-
under 2
Okay.
hours, yeah.
All right.
But yeah, basic plot. It's supposed to be a rom-com in New York with Lucy, Dakota Johnson's character, Lucy being a very successful matchmaker in the city who is making a living off mathing her way to couples and helping people find a couple because he checked all her boxes, as she says over and over in the film. So
Interesting.
but then she finds herself in her own love triangle with her ex and the new guy, Pedro. And
The
then
ex is Chris Evans, right?
the ex is Chris Evans, yeah. And some of their backstory is shown to us with their, sincere love and romance that's broken up because they are broke themselves. So part of Lucy's backstory is she grew up poor. She saw the effects of that on her family and her being raised. Who she fell in love with, also poor. So they break up. And then we kind of reconvene with her being single, successful, and swooned by a billionaire played by Pedro Pascal, who is like kind of a cool billionaire, though. Like,
Yeah.
he takes her to all the best restaurants, seems to have all the best things to say, dresses amazing. His apartment is an absolute dream of an apartment if you lived in New York. Like,
Is it
my
like,
gosh.
like penthouse apartment or?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, his family serve as like accountants or like CPAs.
Yeah, they're like
or
in
something like that.
finance.
Yeah, they're in finance.
Yeah, so he
Everyone's
grew
in
up- he
finance
grew up
in New
Yeah,
York.
rich
exactly.
and- yeah.
Yeah.
But he meets Dakota Johnson's character Lucy at a wedding, a wedding that Lucy helped initiate.
Okay, so she was the matchmaker.
Yeah.
They made it to the wedding day, the big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And this is where she meets good old Pedro.
Yeah. And so the real tension, for sure, because you probably got some great insights, is rising with the current trend of marriage, viewed as maybe a transaction because you feel valuable because of what this person gives you and vice versa. Or is there still a view of marriage that is maybe traditional, but also rooted in like love being pure and sincere and not needing materialism to kind of be its foundation, right? So it seems like those two viewpoints, I guess, are like explored, through these characters.
So the title of the film is very on the nose.
The Materialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some way. It's pretty clever, though. And here's the thing. I thought the writing was really good. I enjoyed a lot of the dialogue, even though I found the way they framed marriage at certain points to be like, oof, that's like harsh to hear, I thought the writing was really well done. I struggled with some of the acting. I'm not the biggest fan of Dakota Johnson. Pedro can do no wrong in my eyes. And Chris is fine. If you get this man a shield, he's even better. But he's
I'm
fine.
Team Iron Man. So this cast already is not lining up to a good film for me.
But yeah, what would you think? How would you maybe describe this?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, okay, so here's my thoughts on Dakota Johnson's character. Let's kind of start there because I think that her rigidness is intentional. I don't think that necessarily saves it or redeems it in any way and makes it a better watch. But I was trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, why did they cast her? What are they trying to do with this? And why did they let her act so plainly? And I think that they were trying to focus so much on she's so logical and mathematical.
Yes,
so it almost devoids her of like the emotionalness that usually comes. Like she contrasts the women she's helping. The women she's helping are like, I want this, and they're so dreamy-eyed and emotional and all these things and like overexcited. And she's like the very like, okay, let's think about it logically. And they try to make her like the it girl. She's different. She thinks different. She looks at it differently. And so she's the main character because she's not wrapped up in like these other women and they're like, I don't know, femininity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like there's a moment where she's having a serious conversation with her boss and she's thinking about quitting. And the women in the back are celebrating a marriage. And they're like, like literally screaming, jumping up and down. Yeah. And she's just like serious. And I think it's just, that was the contrast. Is like all these women are kind of wrapped up here and she's so the opposite of that. And now I think they kind of swang too hard to like one side to where it just seems like she's not really like into it. But I think that was supposed to be the she's different moment of it all.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I felt about that. I think her main character growth goes through is that she's kind of living vicariously through the character Sophie. Because she describes her in the beginning, she's like, she's my favorite client. She's kind of plain, but she's just a nice girl. And so that's like the quote of the movie. It's like, she's just a nice girl. She should be able to just find a nice guy. Yeah. And so that's the moment where I think she like personifies herself as her. Yeah. And she's trying to just like help this girl out. Because at first she kind of starts, she's like, she's average appearance. She's average intelligence. She's average like humor. All these different things, but she's just a nice girl and she deserves to like find someone. And I think she sees herself as that because she's not like, she mentions that she's not like, she's doing well for herself, but she's not rich. So I think she's just making it seem like she's the average nice girl as well. So she's trying to help this girl. And then the minute that she starts getting bought out of like the dating scene and like what's going on is when Sophie gets harassed and it was or assaulted,
abused,
and it was kind of Dakota's fault because she didn't see the red flags. And like I think the point there is that you can't see the red flags because she goes and after she finds out she's completely distressed and her boss is kind of playing it off and says, hey, this is what happens. This is the risk of being a matchmaker is that sometimes your client's going to get assaulted. And then she starts to get really uncomfortable with that because she's like realizes that the idea of being a woman and dating is that the risk factor is like you're gonna either get assaulted or like killed, and that's just like what it is. And that's when she starts to like develop her character and sort of be like, oh, how do we continue to live in this like type of world, and how do I continue to date in this type of world? And that's when she kind of has like her her crash moment and her coming up moment is when she realizes she's not in love with Pedro. And so it's like both her and Sophie dissenter men at the same time. So they're both no longer concerned with finding their perfect match, so to speak, because they realize that there's no such thing as like a perfect man, since this man was perfect for Sophie on paper. And so that's when Sophie steps away from the agency and is like, I'm not going to date anymore. And this was a scam, and this is dumb, and this is stupid, and I'm just going to like let it happen. And that's when Dakota Johnson's character is like, I don't even love Pedro, and like what even is love?
Yeah.
And I'm no longer concerned with this perfect man either, because what's the point of getting the perfect man if there's not even love there either? And I'm not guaranteed the sort of safety or longevity of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take on it, is that she had to go through this to decenter themselves. And once they decentered themselves, they were like, oh, what even is the point of all this actually?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a lot to unpack in this, so.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because in the middle of, that's why I felt more like a dramedy, if anything, than a comedy, because there is a tragedy to this story with one of her clients who was assaulted by a guy that Lucy like set them up. And so when she finds out what happened to her client, Sophie, she's like scrambling through her notes, like, how did I miss this? You know, so she does wear a lot of the blame. And yeah, at that same moment, she kind of falls out of her relationship with Pedro, who again is like this charismatic, semi-charismatic billionaire, but like takes her out on these amazing dates, invites her to a trip to Iceland. And then she discovers through his bag one night that he's going to propose to her. And they have like this intense conversation in his kitchen because she discovers as well that he's had like leg surgery.
Oh, yeah. He's had lengthening surgery.
Yeah, lengthening.
Pedro Pascal is actually a short king in order to become more dateable.
Yeah. Because there's a running theme throughout this story where it's just like, if you can bring enough value to the relationship, you will get into the marriage and the ideal situation you want to be in, right? And so like even when Lucy attends the wedding of a client who she set up, the bride is having a crisis moment and everyone's waiting for the wedding to start. Right. And so the ceremony, like the girls go get Lucy, like, go help her, you know, and she like has this intimate moment where the bride literally confesses, I don't know if I love him. I just know that he makes me feel valuable. And she feels better about herself over her sister because of the way her future husband will treat her. So it's literally like, it feels like such a cold transaction. Like you're like, oh my gosh, you're about to go say, I do. So like you appreciate the honesty, but you're like, man, so this is like a running theme, right? If I can just bring enough value to the relationship, then I'll find the ideal person.
Yeah.
And so, for the short king of Pedro, Lucy discovers one night as she like moves the covers as he's sleeping and sees that he's had this leg surgery that Lucy, I think herself referenced early on in the film about men going through intense things like this to make themselves more valuable in the dating scene, right? So the film is very honest about just the challenge of today's dating world, like modern dating through apps, social media, the expectations we have on one another. Like that's got to be very difficult. And thank God I'm married right now that I have to walk through that. So all grace and love for you, Celeste, as you navigate this. But,
oh, man.
So there are some great layers to the film that kind of get explored. So, and I love that you talk about decentering that particular view of maybe how they view men in the relationship. I think is pretty important. So
is that actually, sorry, I'm hung up on this idea of like surgery to make yourself taller.
Yeah.
Is that like actually a thing you
can
do?
Yes, that's a real surgery. They talk about it in the film, and they basically talk about it as far as like, I don't remember
I'm going to
what.
league then. I'm getting some inches on me.
Dude, they essentially break a part of your leg so that when the bone reconnects, it will stretch. Like you'll gain inches in your height.
They put a metal rod, so like the bone fuses to this. So it's actually in real life. I think they made it more simple in the movie. In real life, I've seen it and I've seen it botched, and it's a very painful like procedure. And usually guys can't even like really walk right after. But billionaires, because we're talking about Pedro Pascal level, it's not noticeable because it was done like,
really
high end, really well.
That's crazy.
But essentially, the conversation about it is talking about like adding value, but also that you want to be with someone who's of equal value. So that's how they get to the sort of like plot altercation is that on paper, Sophie and this other guy were of the same value, just average, nice people. And because that was like the problem that she had with Sophie is that no guy wanted her because she was just not the
Just a
same
nice
level,
girl.
and she wanted all these like all these boxes. That's where the boxes come in. Is that Sophie was the one who had,
check
I want him to be
boxes.
this, I want him to be this, I want him to be this, and all these guys were that higher than her technically by the math or whatever, and none of the higher level guys wanted her, and they would even say like stuff like she's not fit, or I wouldn't swipe right on her, or things like that, because they either had some of the things that they wanted, but she wasn't like a physically like really appealing woman.
Interesting.
Yeah. She was just described as having like a nice smile, which is
Yeah.
kind of like ironic because at the end of the movie she gets with the dentist. So that's like the whole like joke there. Yeah, that's the whole joke there.
Oh, nice.
So that was part of the thing is that so Pedro Pascal is actually the brother of the guy who gets married through
Okay.
To Lucy's
how they set it up.
client.
Right.
So
I'm
they are
tracking.
both high level guys because they both had the surgery, but no one knows it. They're just tall, which is on every woman's
Yeah.
like list. And all of the clients that Lucy deals with, they all want a tall guy who's like at least 6 foot. And so there's even a joke in the movie too where they're like, is he 5'11" or is he actually 5'9" and lying?
Yeah, dude, it's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
Those are the parts where it's like, this is so well written.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
how they got to the conversation of, well, if he just invested in some of this surgery, we'd be able to set him up with the girls that he wants.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a great line from Lucy on some of these talking points where she says, if the service I was providing you was building a man, we're talking about, and then it says, but it's not, we're talking about people. They come as they are. And so like she does have a way of, in her role, like kind of challenging how we interact with people or kind of simply give them value because it's them hitting some markers that we have,
Yeah.
I guess, when it comes to dating. So I loved the what would I say, like the pulling back of the veil, so to speak, of like, let me just tell you what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to build someone that's we think is acceptable or is gonna be deemed
Yeah.
worthy of connection, so
Well, let's jump into that theme of this idea of value in our relationships. It seems like this conversation of equal value. I think I've seen kind of culturally with some young adults, no one wants to feel like a burden, so they kind of think through that a little bit more. There's always this thought of like, well, what else is around the corner? But let's dive into that kind of value piece a little bit as we navigate relationships and what that means for us.
Yeah, I think that's part of like the beauty of exploring sincere love and romance. Like in Genesis, there's excitement around the fact that God brings Eve to Adam. Like we all love to see a good origin story of love, and part of that means you falling for someone and learning to commit yourself to them, even through their imperfections, even through what they can't bring to the table, and you being able to consciously say, like, I'm going to remain committed to you. I'm going to remain loyal to you, forgive you, and work through these things, knowing your shortcomings, and even being willing to open to exploring more shortcomings that I'll find out about in year 5 or 10. So like there is something I think beautiful about that kind of search for love that is, I think, a lot more grounded and honest when it comes to the sacrifice that's required. Like Lucy has a line in the movie where she says, dating is hard, love is easy. And I think it's halfway right. Like dating is really hard today. And there is an ease and simplicity to love. Why? Because you decide, I'm going to choose you, and by default, cancel out all these other options. But then to say, I choose you today, and I choose you tomorrow, I choose you next month, I choose you next year, like that is incredibly hard, right? That's sacrificial love that the Bible talks about. So there is some changes I would make to that, So yeah, so I think for your question, I think that's part of the journey of learning to love someone is embracing all of who they are, and being empowered by the grace of God to become the kind of person who remains with someone as they become who they're, destined to be in Christ as well, and learning to love them for that, So I think that's really, really crucial. So, but
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
I don't know if I have a thought to follow up that. Let's get into Fredo's notes. We always have this part of the show where Fredo has his thoughts and critiques and all of those great things.
Oh man, yeah. So like love beyond economics. There's this great dialogue you probably remember between John and Lucy, and John's the broke Captain America. This is Chris Evans' character,
John Walker.
Yeah, John. Yeah, where he says, "I can't give you the wedding or the marriage that you want. I still can't afford to be with you." And then she says, "Just because you can't afford it doesn't mean it's worth having." So, and that's like on the heels of a fight that they have, where like their love is kind of rekindled. She's kind of let go of Pedro's character at this point, and she is growing for sure. Though some might see the film as she's returning to her toxic boyfriend because this boy's got some shortcomings. But I think there is something to be said there about having a love that endures that maybe isn't the most ideal economic situation. Now, no doubt, let's not, fool anyone. Like, money would help in certain situations. Yeah. And there is something to be said that economic, like your position could negatively impact your desire to get married. It could impact the length of your marriage, right? All those things. But there is something beyond just our economic status that I think can determine the health and longevity. If we take our cues from the Sermon on the Mount and the things that we should worry about, the things we shouldn't worry about, and understanding where real treasure's at, then I think you begin to live a life that's more and more freed from what Jesus describes as mammon, or the love of money, and serving money or seeing money as like a god almost that will give you the life you think you need, especially the romantic life you think you need, and rather discovering what Jesus calls the good life, and that's rooted in him and finding enough in him, So I think the film takes a good step in that direction. Maybe not a perfect step or all the way, but I think it takes the right step back towards us. Worthwhile, exciting, and also rooted in something that is beyond your paycheck every 2 weeks, So, yeah. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot, but sorry, but I agree. I think a lot of this, you had mentioned something to me that kind of stood out to me. I think you mentioned it before we had started filming, but talking about like consumption and how like in a relationship, the absence of love is just consumption.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a really good point of the movie, is that what was kind of like at the root of her consumption and why she wanted this so badly. And I think it kind of my thoughts tied it back into like the previous conversation of more towards like value and where people find value. And hers kind of came from an insecurity that we already mentioned. Was one, she grew up poor, so she saw like the issues that caused. But two, it stemmed from what caused her to break up with Chris Evans in the first place, which was she didn't feel valued. They had planned this like 5-year anniversary thing, and he couldn't like, one, set aside some money for that, and two, completely like forgot the plan of what they were supposed to be doing. And so it just kind of stemmed from that insecurity of like, you don't even care. Like, we've been together for 5 years. You don't even care enough to do this to me. This one thing that was important to me, because it wasn't important to you, you completely disregarded it. So like, what's the point of this? So like that she said, like later in the movie, she was like, we didn't have a lack of love. There was no absence of love. She blames it on him being broke. Yeah. But the reality is, what she says multiple times I think she says it once about herself, but to other people, is that talking about value. So I think she ends up realizing throughout the film that her issue was with value instead of like an actual monetary number behind why she wanted those things. And I don't think that we got to really like see it in the film because the timeline is pretty rushed. She like goes straight. But I think that I think an ideal situation, or when maybe they had more time in the movie, I think what's missing there is like the growth that she had, which is like, oh, okay, I don't care about this dating thing, and let me realize what the root of the issue is, and let me heal that so that I can get into a relationship that's actually the most healed version of that.
Yeah.
And so although you can see it as a toxic ex, I couldn't really interpret the movie that way because it seemed like they both healed to a point to where they weren't toxic and now it works. So it was very much like the right people, they met at the wrong time because they're supposed to be early 20s. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to love each other. And they had to meet, I don't even know how many years later, but now they're in like 30s and late 30s. I think Chris Evans says he's 37 in the film. So I don't know what the gap was
maybe a
there.
decade.
So it might have been 10 years before they actually like ran into each other again.
Came back, yeah.
And she was like, I'm all these things. I'm cold and I'm, I am materialistic and all these different things. And I don't get why you love me. And he's just like, I do. I do love you. And so I think that what was missing there was that we didn't get to see since she went directly to him immediately, her comfort person.
Yeah.
Was just sort of like, how do you, that like healing moment, that like switch where it's like, okay, I understand what the problem was and I can let go of that problem. And then he had 10 years to let go of his problem.
Yeah.
And now that they're at the right time and the right people for each other.
Is there an argument for the case that Lucy's your name, right?
Yeah.
That she has that moment upon discovering the ring and this growth height surgery thing?
Maybe?
Yeah, because, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it was maybe the leg surgery. It was maybe, she says something like, Pedro's like, it's really hard to feel like this is not about the legs. Because she finds out.
It's
and then like,
it's good.
Yeah. She finds out and she like breaks up with him. She says, this isn't going to work. Literally just like that. And he's like, why? The legs?
Charisma of a cardboard.
Yeah. And she's like, no, like I promise it's not because of that. And he's like, it's really hard to feel like it's not because of the legs. And she goes, no,
Every
it's
short king's problem.
No, really.
For real.
No, that's why his character was so good. It's because he's actually supposed to be 5'7", and you can't have both.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the actual question.
In that conversation, she does admit, like, we don't love each other.
Yes.
So she does call out the fact that they are still operating in that old pattern of we simply just bring value to each other.
Yeah.
I'm young, attractive,
Status.
successful.
Yeah.
You're mature, a billionaire, successful. Like, this on paper makes sense. And to everyone else, like, oh, of course they would find each other. But she's having, I think, a come to Jesus moment of like, I don't really love this person. The Iceland trip sounds amazing, but like, I can't get married to you. Like so there is something new that's born out of her, so.
It seems like the film is speaking to materialistic value, to being valued by another person.
Yeah.
Willing to, like you said earlier, sit in the sacrificial love of choosing and being committed to someone compared to, we get to go to Iceland and go on all these crazy trips. Because there is some truth to, like, if Viv and I had the money to go on trips, we would be traveling the world. Like, that would solve some things in our lives, but that's not the driving factor behind why we love each other and stay committed to each other.
Yeah. So what she says when they're having their conversation is that, and he says, sorry, I'm trying to remember what it was, but he says, so it's not about like the legs. And he goes, no, it's because I know about the legs and I still feel the same. So basically what he was saying is that I now know you more intimately than I did before because I know you did this thing and I still don't feel anything towards you.
Yeah.
And so I think she realizes that there wasn't even like empathy there, or there wasn't even like a sort of like, oh, okay, I see that you invested in yourself and maybe we can have a conversation about that or something. It's that there was no desire to know more about what led you to that other than, okay, yeah, this is what men do and like, cool. And so, I mean, that could maybe be her like awakening, but I don't know, just to me, it feels like an abrupt like breakup. Okay, I'm ready for Chris Evans now.
Yeah. She goes
I mean, it
back
is only
in.
2 hours, so that is a
I
quick
know, but,
pace
like,
for a film.
Yeah,
but-
they got to get to it. You know, they got to get to the resolve. But yeah, so I think those kinds of qualities I think are important to draw out. You know, as you think about, especially young people having to have that like moment where they confront what is it that I'm actually after in this relationship. Like, what am I after? if when I'm opening up Tinder or whatever app I'm using to look for someone, you know, like what am I ultimately trying to pursue? Which is why I think Christian community as a whole, where it's made up of people of every ethnicity, everyone representing various socioeconomic statuses, people both married, single, divorced, old, right? Children, no children. Like the Christian community as a whole offers a kind of formidable space that I think helps us better understand what God is inviting us to as we pursue romantic love. Like it offers us, I think, a holistic approach to how to become a person of love in Christ, and then how to commit yourself to someone of that same thing, you know? And so it helps us kind of strangely resist the waves of culture today that would send us into just every other approach that people are taking, you know, to find romantic love, you know? So I do think there is something beautiful the church has to do in modeling Christian community for everyone in every kind of relationship. Like there is another path to take, you know? So, and this, there's no church in this film, but there's no one really religious in this film.
Yeah.
But you do see individuals trying to like navigate their way out of their own like past brokenness, you know? Understand, I love what you talk about, like you got to find value. You got to see yourself as valuable, worthy of love, but then also understanding what I'm committing to in the long run too as well, you know? So, because I think it's like the fight in New York in the middle of traffic because he forgot about the date and he's flipping out about $25 parking. Like that is on him, whether you got money or no money. Like it's an anniversary. You should know better, right? So like she is worthy of someone who is going to celebrate her, you know?
Yeah.
So let's hope that he did change his ways by the end of the film.
Yeah, well,
So,
he said that he was going to set a reminder.
that's
He
right,
said, I'm going to send a reminder in my phone that I'm going to love you tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
Because I think he just kind of realized that, like, in the previous iteration of their relationship, he just didn't put her first at all. So not only is he broke and all these different things and all the struggles that come with that, but he just didn't even, like, try. And so at the end of the movie, we say he's giving her a commitment, and then he's also bringing her flowers, and they're getting a cheap falafel meal together that he picked up and made sure to order like her order. And then he makes a little ring out of flour. So he's still broke. The situation hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But he is now giving her, or at least he's acknowledging her value and putting him first in his life, which is like the whole point of,
Then,
I
of
think
course,
the
they're
film.
eating in Central Park, which is a perfect place to
Which
have
again,
a meal.
rather be broke in New York than
I think she does too. Right before their meal together, towards the end of the film, she turns down a job offer that would have made her the kind of new boss of this
Like matchmaking agency.
Yeah, her boss wanted to promote her because her boss was now leaving to another role, and she like is pretty much going to turn it down, which I think is meant to kind of communicate her character arc, her development into becoming the person who's just moving beyond the materialistic side of you know seeing your value is rooted in what you've accomplished. So
it's cool.
There's some hope. I just that's it.
We all want to see the return of the rom-coms, and if this is the one that has to kickstart it, so be it.
Yeah, I think it can do it. I had mentioned to you guys off episode about this interview between Ross Douthat and I believe her name was Alice Evans, and they talk about the fertility crisis in the world today and the coupling crisis. They call it the coupling crisis, where because of social media, digital isolation, like it's hard for people to find real love. And one kind of unique, like out of the blue idea this sociologist offers is let's bring back rom-coms. Like let's start to tell stories in the greater culture again that go on the exploration and adventure of finding love and help people like come out of their shell, get dressed, get ready, spend money, and like go on a date with someone and risk being turned down or risk finding someone who's imperfect like you know? So as outlandish as that idea sounds, it might actually be helpful in people, I think, rediscovering like the value that is in long-term committed love, you know, that is, yes, romantic, powerful, and doesn't need to be rooted in consumerism or materialism, you know?
Yeah.
So there you have it.
There
The
you have
Materialist.
it. The Materialist.
Yeah.
All right. As we usually do with movies, out of 10, what are you rating it?
Want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it like a 5. It's,
5.5?
Yeah, out
Okay.
of 10. I had high expectations. I was hoping for a great rom-com set in New York, and I struggled with some of the acting. You know, people say she's great off camera in interviews, but Dakota Johnson at moments looked like she was reading off a cue card. Like it was pretty rough. Not my
Okay.
favorite. Yeah,
All right.
5.5.
Yeah.
That's a generous 5.5.
Generous 5.5.
Yeah.
Okay, I received that.
I was going to do 6. I think I'm going to stay with 6.
All right.
I think what happened, so you watched the movie first, told me about it, and like really set the bar low.
Oh, okay.
So when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I was happy to lower your expectations.
Yeah, and then they were like pleasantly like lifted.
Okay,
So
that's
I think
good.
I would stay at a 6. Again, the romantic genre is not really up my alley too much, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
Okay.
And I enjoy the message behind the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of glad that she didn't have like this billionaire sweep her off her feet like Prince Charming, and it was more like real and a little bit ugly. And so it was like, hey, this is like what real life is. And then also still acknowledging the fact, like, the plot altercation of like, hey, like this stuff happens, and like, how do we talk about that, and how do we even begin to approach that? And does that mean that I need to like completely stop, or like I think Sophie was brave in the fact that she was like, well, I'm gonna try this again, and I'm gonna like get married and have that happy ending, and like wasn't like completely stopped by what had happened to her, but it showed the ugliness of her having to move through that. And I think that that's a really important conversation that I haven't seen addressed in a really good way. And I think that the movie did a great job of addressing it without making it the main thing, but also like giving it its due justice of like, we need to talk about this. And we can't have a modern take on romance without addressing that this is a problem and that people go through this really commonly. So I enjoyed that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Great thoughts.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for sharing on The Materialist. Thank you for watching the Theology and Show. My name's McKay, joined with Fredo and Celeste. If you're liking the content, like, subscribe, share with a friend. All the typical YouTube content creator things I have to say.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Grace and peace.